Thank you for joining today with Cyber Church of Christ. Hope you're watching the YouTube video. We encourage you to watch more of them, and our idea is to learn and do the things that please our Father. And we'll have usually we have a PDF that we go over. We like topics. We'll have a topic, and we'll usually have that as either our studies or our, like today, our lessons brought in the church service. But today's topic's called Abased and Exalted. So let's look at that a minute. Abased and exalted. Can I exalt myself, which is a pretty common thing because I want to pump myself up. And it says that was the question. The answer is it's a commandment. Do not exalt yourself. Oh, okay. Well, then how can I be exalted? I mean, that's going to be the next question. You perform the answer. You perform an act of humility or humbleness. Okay, well, and then that's going to get me exalted. Well, let's find out. But yes, it's going to be the answer. We're going to prove the answers here today. Now, normally we have mixed books and stuff of a particular topic, and you'll see them in here. Well, today's topic a little different. It's going to be mainly just Jesus teaching. So you'll see when it's in red letter, that's actually quotes, and Jesus himself speaking and teaching. And you're going to find that's what's happened. Today's lesson is just about all. There's only one verse that sets it up, but other than that, it's all Jesus teaching. All right. Now let's look at these definitions. Abased, if you want to look it up in your Strong's, it's Greek word 5013, which basically means to brought low. I mean, somehow something got down. And then I put the common English, what we know today, means you got knocked down or put to shame. And then the definition of exalted is to lift up or elevate, Greek word 5312, and it means that you were uplifted. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. This is Jesus teaching. Now, what he's going to do is the topic is abased and exalted. So what he does is he'll give you an example. Here's what abased is. Here's what exalted is. So let's start off with Luke chapter 14. We're going to look at these four verses, verse 8 through 11. Okay. Now, the word bidden means to be invited. So, all right, let's quote Luke 14:8. When thou art bidden, and this bidden means you've been invited, when thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest, which we know as unless, a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. All right, well, if I was to look at the pronouns in here, this him is the one that invited me to the wedding. Okay, so he sets up the analogy. Usually they're called parables. It's exactly he explains it, and people that believe the truth know exactly and understand the parable, and people that don't believe the truth don't believe the parable, or it doesn't make sense to them. So this is actually what's going on now. And you'll see that there's a semicolon there. All right, verse 9. And he that bade thee and him come and say to thee. Okay, do you see how many pronouns we got here? Let's see. He. Who's that he? Well, this is the one that invited me. One that the host. Yeah, that's the host. And him. He is the host. Thee is me, and him is the other guy. Who is the other guy? This honorable man. So right now I have the host that's invited me, and there's also a second person invited. And we'll see if they end up being honorable, but that's where these pronouns come in. So the guy inviting me says to him and me, come and say to thee, give this man place. Okay, who? Wait a minute, back up. So he said, what now? Well, what happens is we've been invited. Two of us have been invited. And one of them says to give this man place. Well, who is that? Well, he that bade me. He is the host, and this is me and him, and say to me. So these thee means me. Yeah. Give this man place. So what did he give me a command of some sort? Well, yeah, well, at least he's telling you what to do. He's the host. Give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lowest room. Well, because why? Well, I thought I was going to get the upper room. I was going to get the better room. And instead, the host has invited two of us. And then the host is now telling me, oh, by the way, you took the other guy's place. I'd allocated that space for him, but I don't know, you got a vein issue or something. But anyway, what happened is you took his place. So when I invite you, I'm gonna say, hey, you need to give this spot to the other guy. Okay, well, who is this man? Well, this man will be this honorable man that's up here. Oh, and thou. So this thee and this thee here is me, and this thee is me, and this thou is me. And I'm going to do what now? Begin with shame to take the lowest room. So, in today's vernacular, you'd probably say he got out over his skis. He bit off more than he could chew. He assumed something he shouldn't assume. There's lots of little sayings you could have from that. But that's what's happened is he give this man place and shame the lowest room. Now, verse 10, and the way this starts it starts with but, meaning that this can be a different situation from what you had in 8 and 9. Okay, but when thou art bidden, so now when you get invited somewhere from the host, go and sit down in the lowest room. Now, what is that going to accomplish? Well, what that's going to be is you're going to be more humble. You're going to think, well, somebody else is probably more honorable than I am. And when he invited me over, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go humbly sit in the least valuable room, in the least desirable room. Okay. So he says, hey, when you're invited, go sit down in the lowest room. Okay. Semicolon. That when he that bade thee cometh, that's the host. Yeah. He may say unto thee, friend, go up higher. So yeah, why are you staying in the basement? We got a room up here upstairs, actually, to the nicest guest room we have. We allocated that for you. Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, then what would happen after this colon here? Then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that set at meat with thee. So then you're going to be what? Well respected is what that's going to happen. And then what he likes to do, and Jesus does this a lot, summarizes. I mean, sometimes he'll have a summary, go through the detail, and then have another summary. But the summary to this that he's teaching is, this is Luke 14:11, for whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. So it gives you a good example, because anybody can understand this example. I got invited to a place. I go, okay, well, I'll just take the back seat here. I'll take the back corner. And then the guest goes, man, am I glad you showed up? No, we got a spot for you over here. And suddenly I'm being exalted. By who? By someone else. Oh, yeah, not myself. So when I exalted myself, is I went and stayed in the best room regardless. Well, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. So up here in this question you had, how can I be exalted? You perform an act of humility and humbleness. Okay, well, that's what this was. He that humbleth himself shall be exalted. Okay, and exalted by who? Well, evidently by our Father, because he didn't say by who. You're going to know that, hey, you just got exalted. Well, it was the host. Yeah, but it's the Father's doing because you humbled yourself. All right, now let's look at this next parable here. We'll look at Luke 18:9 to Luke 18:14. So we'll look at these 6 verses. And it's close to exactly what we just read in the other one, but we want to make a point. All right, so let's look at it, Luke 18:10, and he's going to give me an example here of exalted and abased, today's topic. All right, 2 men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. Okay, now, who are they? Who are you talking about? There's 2 men. Well, one, a Pharisee means he's of the Jewish doctrine, law of Moses. Yeah, that's actually a sect, SECT, split off of the doctrine that Moses set up was for there was one doctrine for all, but somehow the Sadducees and Pharisees got split off. Okay, and the Pharisees, if you studied them, you'd see they have a lot more vanity. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. One's a Pharisee, and what is this publican? Is that like Republican, like we have? Well, no, actually, let me explain that real quick. A publican, you know what? Our land got invaded by the Caesar. So Caesar and his army came in. They took over all our land, took over all of the politics, and set up a governor and just took over everything. Yeah. Well, we don't like that. Well, no, I guess you don't. Okay, well, what's this publican? Well, what happened is now you went and worked for them, or you're living within their society, and we don't like that. We got a name for you. It's called publican. Okay, so an example would be like Matthew was working at the docks, and he does the paperwork for, bill of lading. He'll do paperwork for the ships coming in and out. Okay, well, you're actually just working for the man, what they call that. You're working for Caesar. So we're going to call you a publican. So even though you're a Jewish guy, uh, you're still a publican because you're supporting the Roman Empire with your profession. So you'll look when you're looking through the Bible and you see publican, you'll see that, oh, what they're doing is they're complacent to the Romans taking over our society. All right. Now, let's look at this verse 11, Luke 18:11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. Oh, what do you mean? Prayed with himself. Oh, well, not really praying for others. He's just talking about himself. So what about my prayer? Well, are you just praying for yourself? Well, I'm not. No, I like to pray for others and the world and all that. Okay. Well, that's not what's happening here. This is prayed thus within himself. Okay. God, so he's addressing God. I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. Oh, okay, so both you and the publican are both in the temple. Yeah, well, I'm assuming that publican is also Jewish because you're in the temple and you're praying. All right, so first thing the Pharisee does is what? Well, you know what? I'm not an extortioner. We got extortioners in our society. I ain't one of them. And also, I'm a fairly honest guy. A lot of liars around that are unjust. And also, I've never cheated on my spouse. So I'm not one of them. And you know what? I'm not even as bad as this guy. He's a publican. He works for the government, works for promoting Caesar and them that coming in here. Look, I'm a lot better than that guy. Okay. And then, you know what? While I'm in the middle of this prayer, I'm going to go to Luke 18:12 and go ahead and give you my credentials. I got some credentials. So you already found out I haven't extorted, and I'm not unjust. I'm not adult. I'm not even like this guy came in here with me. Okay. And what else? I fast twice in the week, and I give tithes of all that I possess. Okay, so you did a self judgment, and you're looking pretty good. Oh, oh yeah, yeah. I'm doing. I don't. Those things like those crimes I mentioned up there. I don't do those. I'm not as bad as this publican guy. And not only that, I'm going to add to that. I fast twice a week. And as far as my giving goes, I do tithes. This tithes, I don't know if you know much about that, but it's 10, that means tenth in Hebrew. I give a tenth of all that I possess to the church. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm going over my resume with you and showing you how good a guy I am. All right, so I told you what I didn't do, and I compared myself to this guy, and I'm looking pretty good. And let me give you these credentials. I fast and I give tithe. All right. So what do you got this eye business going on, huh? Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at the other one. So that was the first guy. That was the Pharisee that was praying. Yeah, that was the Pharisee. And not only did he say he's obeying some of the law here, well, he's better than that other guy. But my neighbor doesn't even believe in God. So, I'm a lot better off than he is. Okay. Is that what you compare yourself to, or are you comparing yourself to Jesus who set the example? Uh, no, I'm not comparing myself to you. I'm comparing myself to my neighbor, and I'm a lot better off than him. All right. Well, that's a lesson for us, isn't it? All right. Let's hear from the second guy. And the publican standing afar off. Oh, he's already backed off, huh? And if I would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven because of sin and his regret at having sinned. And so what he's going to do is humble himself. Why are you in the temple to begin with? Well, I've done some bad things or sinned, and I'd like to go to the Father and have mercy. Okay. So the publican standing afar off would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Okay, well, why aren't you comparing yourself to these extortioners, the unjust, adulterers? Why aren't you doing that comparison? Oh, well, I'm not comparing myself to my fellow man. I'm lifting up my eyes to the Father and say, hey, have mercy, please. I've been a sinner. Well, that's a lot different than the guy who's comparing himself to everybody else and giving you his credentials. Where are your credentials? Oh, I'm not giving you credentials. What I'm doing is I'm begging for mercy. Oh, okay. Well, what about all the works that you've done? Well, I'm not even bringing that up. I'm not here to tell you my works and how if I fasted and how much I give to the collection plate. What I'm doing is I'm asking for something called mercy. Because why? I'm a sinner. That's why. Okay, so there's no comparison. You're not going to give me your resume or anything. Nope. Okay, so now Jesus gives you the result. I tell you, this man went down to his house. Who is this man? This is the publican, the one that wanted mercy. Oh, he went down to his house justified rather than the other. Well, who's doing the justification? I'm going to say the judge. Oh, like the word, Father. Yeah. Okay, so you're saying that this prayer that asks for mercy is a success, and this guy that has all the, I mean, he told you what all he does. Yeah, well, no. we didn't go with that because he liked to compare himself. He liked to give us his resume and then compare himself to his neighbor and tell me how good he is. This guy didn't do anything but beg for mercy and say he sinned, that he was a sinner. All right, so we'll look at this verse 14 again. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other, for everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. Okay, so that's what the whole story was about. Yeah. Yeah, that's why he gives out a parable. He'll tell you the real story, then you're supposed to then analyze it and say, oh, where do I stand in this? Am I the guy that prays and compares myself to my neighbor and goes ahead and spouts off my resume to the Father? Well, no, not after reading this. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna beg for mercy and tell him, okay, what about the other guy? What about the other guy? I'm here to pray for mercy. Okay, I'll pray for my fellow man because it's a commandment. But on this example, it's about forgiveness of sin. And this man went to the house justified. So what do you mean by exalted himself? I'll give you the example. I'm not an extortioner, not unjust, not an adulterer, and not this guy here, publican. Ain't nothing, I'm far superior to he is. And did I tell you I do the fasting and the giving? Okay, I wanted to toss that in also. Well, it's a lot of eyes in there, a lot of let me look at this publican standing afar off. I'm looking for the word I. Oh, I don't see that in there. Yeah, but I got an I from from the Pharisee. He likes this I and I and I. Okay. And I. Boy, you like yourself. Okay. And the publican did well. I don't even see the word I in here. Oh, well, that's interesting. All right. So what you're gonna exalt yourself, then you'll be abased. Okay, well, by whom? Well, who's ever in charge? Who is that? Well, our Father, through the Son, is actually in charge. It's actually His earth, His creation. Okay, well, then you'll be abased by who's ever your boss, and your boss being the Father, right? Yeah. Well, why don't you exalt yourself? Well, I want to make myself look good. I'm going to use I. Oh, okay, I got you. Well, you know what? You're going to be shot down. It's just how it is. You exalted yourself. You shall. This is maybe or might. No, we have maybes and mights all through the Bible. This one says shall. So you already exalted yourself, and you will be abased. Okay, what if I humble myself like this second guy, this publican guy? Okay, then you'll be exalted. Okay, so my actions are actually making it whether I'm abased or exalted. That's correct. And what were those definitions again? Brought low and elevated or lifted up. Okay. And how can it, if I do not exalt yourself? Okay, that does fit. So we just proved with Jesus' teaching, I don't exalt myself. I'm after humility and humbleness. Okay. Ain't that interesting? So it gives you an example of two different guys praying. Did he say they're not prayers? Well, he didn't say they're not prayers. He's just telling you what's in their prayer, and what's in their heart comes out. Now let's look at these last two verses that I have printed out. Excuse me a second. These last two verses are also read. You notice the whole sermon was red letter. I'm going to toss this in. Matthew 23:11 and 12 is how we're going to end the lesson. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. Well, hold on. That's a head scratcher. No, the greatest among us, we're going to exalt and tell them how great they are. And then we'll serve them. Okay. Well, then that's a different gauge than the Bible. The Bible says whoever's the greatest is a servant. Okay. Well, don't correlate greatest with serving. I correlate greatest with being served. Well, yeah, that's probably what that Pharisee thought too. Oh, no, you want to be great, then serve. And who's ever greatest among you shall be your servant. Now, okay, well, there was a great one that lived on planet Earth, and I'm calling great, which was my high priest when he's on the planet. And I considered that like greatest among the people. And what was he? Oh, yeah, he was a servant. But he wanted people to come around and worship him, and no, he wanted to heal the poor and the sick. He came here to prove God's plan. Serving who? He's serving the Father, but he's serving us. What about today? Serving as my high priest right now. Oh, yeah, you got an example. You want to be great? Serve. That's according to the Bible, that is. All right, let's go ahead and summarize this. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So I find out, hey, you know what? The Father's the one doing the exalting. Okay, well, who's doing the humble? I'm doing the humble. So what's in between? What did you say was in between exalt? Because I don't want to be exalted, but I don't want to be abased. What's in between there? We don't do in between. When the Father writes the Bible, it's either or, either yay or nay. There is no lukewarm. I'm not as good as Jesus. I'm not as bad as Hitler. Okay, well, congratulations. You're comparing yourself to who now? Well, on the bad, like this publican over there. Ain't as bad as him. Okay. So you're going to exalt yourself above him? Yeah. All right. Well, here comes the abased then. So I'm the one that kicked off the exalter abased? Yeah, based on your action. Okay. Well, what if I do this servant thing? Well, that's a part of humility. You've humbled yourself. You think others greater than yourself, and you want to serve them. Okay. He that shall humble himself, of course, this is herself, himself. Himself is just because it's the masculine of mankind. It's how we do pronouns in English. Himself shall be exalted. All right, well, that's a pretty good lesson. So what I need to do is stay humble, not compare myself to fellow man, and certainly not say I'm greater than my fellow man. But what I need to do is be what? Well, I'm wanting to actually get mercy because I'm a sinner. And you know what I need to do? I need to serve. That's what it is. And by serving, you're doing what? I'm humbling myself. Okay. So the whole lesson is about me and what I'm doing. Well, yeah. Do you want to justify yourself amongst your fellow man? Okay, well, then you'll be abased. Oh, well, how? I don't want to be abased. I want to be exalted. We want the Father to exalt you and then serve. That's why I ended the lesson with that. You're gonna serve. You want to be great? Yeah, serve. You humble yourself is serving. Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Anyway, I hope you learned something today and got something out of the lesson, and that you like to have humility. And you like to compare yourself to who? Your high priest. Okay, so we're Cyber Church of Christ. We'd love to hear from you. And we have our email is cybercochrist@gmail.com, and ask us, well, we'd love to have you join us. And we have a midweek Bible study that's very productive, and you can ask any question. We'll go over any topic that you want. That's what we like to do. But anyway, I hope you got something out of today's lesson, and that you look at more of our lessons on YouTube channel. It's the idea is that we learn, and you know what? We'd like to serve you. So I hope you have a great day and watch more of a video. We're the Cyber Church of Christ.